Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought we'd make some really pretty Easter trifold cards, and we'll also be making some coordinating envelopes as well. And we're going to be using lots of products from the Art Impressions line today. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be using these trifold cards. These are from Art Impressions, and they do come with coordinating envelopes, and you get 8 pieces per set, 8 cards and 8 envelopes. The size on these is a little bit smaller than a standard A2 size card. So these measure about 3 3/4 by about 5 1/4. So for stamps today, we're going to be using this beautiful Lily border set from Art Impressions. And you do get that little center stamp as well. We're not going to be using that today, but if you add that, it adds a lot more dimension to these little flowers. We're going to set that aside for now. Now I'm placing my trifold card in my Misty stamp positioner, and I've got it closed. So this is the front panel that we're working on. I've positioned my stamp off to the left-hand side there, and then I'm going to go ahead and ink this first one up with the Kitch Flamingo dye ink pad. So this is just the regular dye ink pad. So you will need to stamp this a couple of times. It's very light. So I'm going to do a double stamping on all of the stamps today. On all of these floral stamps, I should say. So now let's go ahead and do the next color. So I'm going to make sure I clean this off really well in between stampings. And now I'm going to my shaded lilac. So let's go ahead and stamp this. So this is a really easy way to do multiples of cards. And you can see here that in order to fit that stamp kind of going off the card to the left a little bit and down at the bottom, I've placed in my Misty accessory tool, that little corner tool, and that just pushes the card out into the center of my Misty a little bit better. Now I'm going to switch to the squeezed lemonade, again cleaning off that stamp really well. And then I'll go ahead and ink this up a couple of times as well. So now, depending on how many cards you want to make, I'm going to make 3 today, but you could certainly just keep this in position and make a half dozen note cards very easily this way. So now I've got that first stamping done on all 3 of these cards. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the second one. So I'm basically going to repeat this image across the front panel of my card. So I'm just going to play around with that, and I kind of want it to go down a little bit each time here. I don't want to fill the whole front of the card. I kind of want to have some white space up towards the top there. So again, I'm inking this up twice. I positioned it on my card. And now I can go ahead and clean off my stamp again and switch back to that Kitch Flamingo. So if you have a lot of cards to make, this is a really great way to do it. Just get everything set up and then just start doing your stamping. And sometimes I find this process very relaxing. It just kind of is easy. You don't have to think too much once you've kind of figured out what your layout and your design is going to be. You can just go ahead and create multiples this way very easily. So now I've got my shaded lilac again. Now I've done all 3 of those with the second stamping, so let's go ahead and clean that off and position this one more time on the right hand side of our card. And again, it's going to go off the card. I wanted the flowers to look like they continue on. So I don't have to ink up the whole thing here, so I can just do my inking very quickly. And now I'll go ahead and do the other 2 cards the same way. Now I wanted that pattern to continue on the inside of my card. But in order to do this, I need to turn the card the other direction because I need room for that stamp to go off the edge, but I also need room to open up my card here as well. So I'm going to mask off the inside of that front panel of the card with a little bit of purple tape. And that's the 1 1/2 inch purple tape. And now I can go ahead and position my stamp in place and do that same process. So I'm just going to be doing the 3 colors, exact same colors. And then I'll switch this out and I'll do the next color. So now once I've done all three of those, I'm going to go ahead and move that stamp over. I don't need that purple tape any longer because we're not going to be anywhere near that edge now. So now I can go ahead, clean off my stamp and position it next to this one that we've already stamped. And you can see here that my stamp is starting to go off the edge, but it's not in the way of anything, so I'm not going to worry about that. I've got room off that edge to do my stamping, so it's going to work out just fine. Now, if you were worried about that, you could always just use a regular stamp on an acrylic block to do your stamping here. And also, you could go to your larger MISTI, which is the Memory MISTI, and that's a 12 by 12 MISTI stamp positioner. Now here you'll see I need to slide this over to the left just a little bit because it does get in the way of that little hinge there. So now I'll go ahead and do that last stamping on the end just like we did before. So now that we have that beautiful floral pattern stamped on the front panel and on the second panel, I'm going to go ahead and do some inking around the edges. So I'm using a blending brush from the Hero Arts collection, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a nice soft border all the way around. So I'm using that exact same color, that Kitch Flamingo color, and I'm going to go ahead and just, again, that'll bring our eye in towards the center a little bit. I've placed a piece of scrap paper in there just so I don't get any of that ink on the other panels of my card. And I've got this placed on my Wendy Vecchi Make Art station. And that allows me just to use my magnets to hold this down while I do my inking. So that makes it really easy to hold it in place. So now I've opened up the front panel of the card and I'm placing that scrap paper right inside that second panel. Again, just to keep everything else clean. I'm going to do that same thing with that little border all the way around. I did that for all three of these cards. Now I want to spatter each one of these. So I'm using my Distress Sprayer, which just has water in it, and I'm using a small paintbrush here. I just want some little tiny spatters across the front panel. And again, I'm using that same color, that Kitch Flamingo. So we're adding a lot of texture and dimension just by using the exact same color for the stamping, for the border, and for the spattering. Now I'll open this up. Once it's dry, you do want to let that dry. For this purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and do that quickly, but I would probably heat set it or let that dry and then come in and do the spattering on the next panel here. And I'm going to do the same thing for all three of these cards using the same color ink as the stamping. So I'll set those aside to dry. Now I've got my rectangle A2 double stitch dies, and I'm going to grab these two different sizes here. And for cardstock, I'm using three different colors. I'm coordinating the colors with the ink colors that we've chosen. And these are all from the Lawn Fawn collection. The pink is called Ballet Slippers. This yellow is called Sticky Note. And this purpley tone I got from the Rainbow paper pack. And I die cut two of the smaller ones and one of the larger one for each of these colors. So now for the next set of stamps, I'm going to be using the Sweet Easter set, again from Art Impressions. And I've just cut three different panels here. We're going to do our stamping, and I'm stamping on the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. So I'll place that in my MISTI, and I'll use my Versafine Onyx black ink to do my stamping. Now this is a permanent black ink, and we're going to be coloring with some water-based pens. So now I've got all three of those panels stamped, And let's do some coloring. This is the Pink Haze and the Light Pink. And again, I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, which are a water-based pen. And I'll be doing the blending with the blender pen, but you could also use water to do your blending here as well. So I thought these two sets coordinated really well. The lily border and this set was again that sweet Easter set. So this worked out really well to create the background and then to create the two little focal points. Now this little cup with the two flowers in it we're going to use on the front of the card, and that other one up top there we're going to be using on the center panel of our card. So I'm just adding those two shades of pink and I'm just blending those out, sort of just coloring the centers of the flowers, kind of leaving the outer edges white. And then I'm coming in with the two shades of green here. I'm using pale green and light green to do the leaves. And then I'll also use those same two greens on the bows. And I'll do all the bows in the exact same color. And then I'm going to use this light gray to color in the little cup. And that's just to create a little shadow here. Now we'll be adding a little bit more interest to these flowers later on, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Now for these little areas here, I'm going to use that light gray. I'm going to go around the edges just to create a little shadow. And then I'll just blend that in towards the center, leaving the center white. And I did the flowers the exact same way. And so I colored in the rest of those. And I'll just show you the colors here very quickly. I used the lilac and the violet to do these. Again, I'm just coordinating the dye ink colors with the marker colors here. And I'll just show you one of these flowers. Again, kind of leaving those edges white. And now for the yellow, I used yellow and lemon yellow. And again, I'll just show you the one flower here. Basically, I colored them all the same way. So once I had that all done, here's where I decided to add a little bit more interest. I'm adding some little black dots. The flowers normally would have that on there, so I'm just adding a few little black dots on each of the petals of these flowers, and I thought that just added a lot to these. And I am using a permanent black marker. I'm using my Pitt Artist pen, and that's the 0.1 millimeter that I'm using, and you can see that there. That definitely adds a lot of interest to these. Then I'll add 3 little dots in the upper right hand corner and the bottom left hand corner. Again, just for a little bit more interest. So I did that for all of these panels. So now that we have those colored in, I'm using my detail scissors to cut these out, and I will leave a little white border all the way around. There are no coordinating dies for this set, so I just use my detail scissors to cut those out. Going back to that sweet Easter set, I'm going to use those two sentiments there. And one says Easter blessings and the other one says Happy Easter. So let's start off with the Easter blessings. I've already positioned it in place. And I'm using that little corner again just to bring this out from the edges a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my stamping. So I did that for all 3. And now with that larger panel that we cut earlier that has that pretty stitched border all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and stamp Happy Easter on each of these. Again, I've positioned that stamp right in the center of each of these panels. And just to let you know, all the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. So let's go ahead and pop these up. We're going to use some Scotch foam mounting tape here, and I want to use plenty of it because I want to make sure that they stay up nice and secure when they go through the mail. So I'm going to just remove the backing from that tape. And taking one of those smaller panels that we cut earlier, remember we cut two of these smaller ones and that one larger one that says Happy Easter on it. I'm going to go ahead and attach all of these little cups of flowers. And I want it kind of to hang over that right side just a little bit. And then with that second smaller panel that we cut, we're going to go ahead and attach the Easter blessings right onto each of those. I am going to make sure that I have glue right up to the edges just to make sure that these stay in place while that card gets opened and closed, because it is a tri-fold card. So I want to make sure everything's nice and secure. So now we have everything attached. We can go ahead and assemble our card. So with that larger panel, I'm going to center that on the inside of the card. So I've opened up the card all the way, and I'm just going to place that right on that center section. And then I'll close the card one time and we'll attach that Easter blessings. And I'm going to attach it up towards the top a little bit. Again, making sure I have glue right up to the edges there. And I'm just using some scrap paper to press that out. And then we'll go ahead and attach that front piece. So now by positioning that off to the right just a little bit there, we have a little room up towards that top left to put a few little crystal gems. I'm going to buy Pink Fresh Studio Essential Jewels Mix, and I'm just going to find some coordinating colors here. And again, these little jewels have 3 different sizes in them. So I'm going to take one of each size, and I'm using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to attach these, and I've got my Marvy jewel picker there. I'll use that to pick these up. So let's go ahead and attach these. Again, I've got the 3 different sizes here. And that's just going to add a little bit of sparkle and a little bit more interest here. So now I want to create some envelopes to coordinate with these. Even though they do come with coordinating envelopes, I wanted to create some vellum envelopes. So this is the envelope punch board from We Are Memory Keepers. And what you want to do is find the size that you're looking for. So my card measures approximately 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. So what I want to do is find the one that is as close as I can get to my card size. So I'm selecting the one that says 4 by 5 1/2. And so I need to cut my paper at 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. And I need to have my first score line at 3 3/8. So I'm just following that right across there to find my sizes. So I've already cut this 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. And then my first score line is going to be at 3 3/8, and that is clearly marked right here on this envelope punch board. So now I'm going to go ahead and line that up, punch, and then score. Now I can turn this, and now from here on out, I don't need to know any other measurements. I'm going to put that pointer right on that score line that we already created, and I can punch and score. And then I'll follow that little pointer again. And with the vellum, it's really easy because you can also see that white line underneath as well, that little white arrow. But if you had solid cardstock, you just want to follow that pointer. So you're going to punch and score all the way around. And now I'm just flipping it around and using that little corner rounder to round off those edges. You don't need to do this, but I think it finishes it off nicely. So now we can go ahead and fold right along those score lines. Now with the vellum, our adhesive will show through a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to use some 1/8 inch double-sided tape just so that we have just a small amount of tape. So that looks like it's going to fit this card perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and take that 1/8 inch double-sided tape and just add a little strip of it on each side. We don't need much here. And again, that's not going to show too much. You could also use some clear glue here as well. But you do want something fairly strong because you want to make sure that it holds together well if you're going to be putting it in the mail. So now I'll just fold that up into place. And now you can see our card will fit nicely in there. And I love these vellum envelopes. I just think it just makes everything a little bit prettier, just a little bit softer. Now let's take a closer look at the card. We have those pretty sparkly embellishments, and I just love these TryFold cards. They're just really fun and just a little bit more interesting. And then they also give you plenty of room if you want to write a nice note inside there. You have lots of room for that. And then we've got the pretty pink and then this really soft yellow color. So again, you could do a few more cards in a few different colors, just make a little rainbow of colors, and it makes a great gift. I know I've said this before, but it's really fun to give these as a gift and also include a pen and some postage. And here on each one, I'm going to be hand delivering these. So I'm going to just tie a little bit of coordinating twine on here. Here I've got some lavender and white twine. And I'm just using my reverse tweezers to hold that in place while I tie a little bit of a bow here. And then again, that just makes it a little bit more special. And then if you want to add that as a gift, you could add a box of candy or something with that. With that little bow on there, it just makes it a little bit of a gift. Or put a little gift card inside here would also be cute. Then I've got the pink and white twine, and here I've got some yellow and white. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.